This may have just confirmed what we already knew, as a new interview with a former member of Mike Buddenholzer's coaching staff just gave us an inside look on why exactly the Phoenix Suns era of Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant was such a disaster. And we're going to take a look at what he said, his point of view, his perspective, everything on why this was such a tantalizing time for Phoenix Suns fans. And we're going to get into a game preview of tonight's game against the Atlanta Hawks. And going to take a look at some stuff that Jordan had to say about Jalen Green's return, as well as some quotes from Jalen Green on his return a couple nights ago against the Philadelphia 76ers. But before we get into all that, guys, I just want to take a quick second to thank you for all of your support over the past couple of months. So just want to say thank you that we're almost at our goal of 3,000 subscribers. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you once again for all of your unbelievable support. Before we get into all of this news today, we're going to take a quick word from our sponsor. Before we get into all the news today, this video is brought to you by Kieley. When you download Kieley using the link below and enter code DIGESTNBA, you'll get $20 when you trade your first $100. Kieley is the largest prediction market in the US. And on their platform, you can trade yes or no on real-life events, sports, elections, news, and pretty much everything. And whether you're in California, Arizona, or anywhere else across the country, Kieley is live in all 50 states. And for us sports fans, especially here in Phoenix, you can trade on game outcomes, playoff chances, or player performances, all on a regulated market where you can cash out at any time. If you take a look at Kieley's website right now, they currently have the Suns to win 48 games this season, which would hopefully qualify them for the playoffs, which Kieley has them at a 75% chance at qualifying for the postseason. Now, maybe they're not incorporating a possible trade that the Suns could make at the February deadline, or maybe they're not looking at the Suns, who are currently sitting at the 7th seed, not totally qualifying for the playoff spot, as the 7th to 10 seeds have to compete in the play-in tournament. But guys, overall, Kieley is a genuinely smarter way to use your sports or news knowledge, and you can close positions whenever you want. So make sure to download Kieley with the link in the description, and don't forget to use code DIGESTNBA to get your $20 bonus. And thank you once again to Kieley for sponsoring this video. So folks, getting into this new story about the Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant era Phoenix Suns basketball. I feel like we've probably already talked about this before, but a new interview came out from No Dunks, an NBA podcast on YouTube, that interviewed a former coaching staff member of the Mike Buddenholzer era, and that assistant coach staff member was Brent Barry. And in this interview, they went over exactly why this era of Phoenix Suns basketball just did not come to fruition. A very, very tantalizing time for Phoenix Suns fans, of course, having guys like Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant joining up with Devin Booker, and of course teasing the fans into thinking that, this is going to be a new era of Suns basketball ever since the departure of Chris Paul, ever since the finals run in 2021, trying to rebuild the team into something that they clearly couldn't be, as there was a lot of problems with that basketball team, as we all know very well and good from watching them for the past 2 years. Now, just for the sake of not reading the entire article to you guys, I just kind of pulled out some quotes there that Brent Barry said about the team. So I'll just read the ones that kind of stuck out to me the most, and some stuff that you guys probably already knew, of course, that you could have just told from watching the game. But he said that the situation there overall, I would tell you guys, being on the inside, was a team that just didn't know how to get along. They all were cordial towards one another. They all came to practice and were friendly, but it was one of those situations where you're just not invested. And just right off the bat, from reading that first quote there where he says everyone's just not invested.
Before we get into all the news today, this video is brought to you by
that they're obviously very invested this year, and they seem very obviously that they want to win, and the culture has just completely changed around from Jordan Ott. And just to kind of continue on to what Brent Barry said in his second quote here, he went on to say that the situation there overall, that's the wrong quote, excuse me. He said that if clearly those guys don't have a hierarchy, and as a player you're not aware of which of the guys we're leaning on the most, it confuses the rest of the team. I think we had a lot of guys who didn't exactly know what the expectations were. This comes back to really good coaching and leadership. You have to define those for a team, and at no point did we do that for the Phoenix Suns last year. Brent Barry also went on to say other things like the team just felt like they had nobody to lean on. There was a lot of power struggles and leader problem dynamics in this team. And, of course, going into this, Bradley Beal came in later from Kevin Durant already being there in the Chris Paul era with DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker. But it should have already been established after Chris Paul left that Devin Booker's the leader of this team. He's the guy that has seniority. He's been there for the longest time. He knows this system better than anybody. He knows the franchise better than anybody. And that shouldn't have been a question from day one when that era began. Obviously, having a power dynamic like that and problems like that, and you have three guys that kind of think that they're the guy that should, the guy of the team, the guy that everybody should lean on. I mean, that's just not going to work. That's just there's a history of that in the NBA, and it just doesn't work like that. Of course, you have some examples that are not semi-successful, that are successful, like the Golden State Warriors. They obviously played very well together when Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and that whole team was together. And you have other super team examples like the Brooklyn Nets with James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, which you could argue would have went to the finals if, of course, Kevin Durant was a shoe size smaller. But obviously that was the biggest problem, and I don't think that was hard to tell. I think us as Phoenix Suns fans could tell that was one of the biggest problems going into the season with them, is that there was a power dynamic. Nobody really knew how to play with each other. Nobody knew who to lean on, and they just didn't work well together. They weren't teammates. They didn't work together as teammates. You can see when they're on the court together, of course, they're still friendly and all that. The team didn't work out well together, but that's the biggest thing, that you have to work together as a team. And what a complete 180 that has been so far from last year into this year. You can just see how well the chemistry has improved, like 110%. Everybody works so well together. Everybody knows what they do well and what they do bad, and how they can work together to get more wins. But to transition off of that old news there, we're going to talk about Jalen Green, who had some stuff to say after his first game back against the Philadelphia 76ers. And he went on to say that it felt good. The process was a long process. Shout out to the training staff, my teammates, the whole organization, for real, just sticking with me, supporting me. The process has been long. It felt good to get back out there, and just felt good. I feel like myself again. And of course, Jordan Ott also had some stuff to say. We'll get into that later. But Jalen Green had something else to say about his injury, and he said that I felt solid. The minute restriction, it's hard to get a rhythm a little bit, but just trying to work my way back. Hopefully I get back all the way where there's no minute restriction and I'm just flowing. I felt good overall. And again, I mentioned this in yesterday's video, but I was quite surprised to see that Jalen Green was on a minute. Well, I wouldn't say I was surprised to see it, but in earlier interviews with Jordan Ott, he did mention that he was going to start Jalen Green, but of course that didn't happen against Philadelphia. And he said that he wasn't going to talk about a minutes restriction, but obviously that was the right way to go, to make sure that his hamstring's good. They're not going to aggravate it anyway or tweak it. And of course, I think he's primed for a great game tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. And just to talk about a little bit of what Jordan Ott mentioned about Jalen Green before we get into a little preview about the Atlanta Hawks. He went on to say that you could feel his ability to get downhill to the rim and into the paint, which is, of course, one of the main reasons, one of the main things that we've needed Jalen Green back for is that offensive rim pressure. He said that he thought he made a lot of good downhill drives where he finished or tried to have to find a teammate. Just good to have him back out there. It's like his joy is back. So all in all, just some great overall news about the Phoenix Suns. Of course, Jalen Green is coming back. He's going to be playing tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. I almost said the Atlanta Falcons there for a minute. Jordan Ott is happy to see him back, happy to see him healthy. Of course, the Phoenix Suns are rolling right now. Got a great win in Philadelphia, and they're going to be back home off this long road trip, going to go up against Miami, who they did unfortunately lose to last week in a very, very winnable game. That was a tough one to watch, but of course I do think that they're going to bounce back at home and of course get the dub. But getting into the Atlanta Hawks preview here, I figured I'd show you guys the injury report. At the time of this recording, this is the most recent injury report that we have right now. And of course, it's very great to see that we have a completely healthy Suns team here right now, besides Jordan Goodwin, of course, who is available and is most likely, I'd say 90% chance he plays tonight. He's been dealing with that jaw sprain for the past couple weeks, but of course, we hope that he gets better soon with that, and he's playing exceptionally well with it. The main thing we're going to look at here is the Atlanta Hawks injury report, who really doesn't have anybody too key to the rotation that's in there, besides, of course, Kristaps Porzingis and Zachary Risache, who are obviously very, very key players to that lineup and that rotation, and it's going to be a completely different game with those players out. Now, the last time the Phoenix Suns played the Hawks, they did unfortunately lose in overtime. It was a very chippy and close game. And, this Atlanta Hawks team is definitely not one that you should sweep under the rug. I know they don't have the best record in the NBA. They're very, very, I would say, a mid-tier team right now. They're 10th in the Eastern Conference. I almost said Western Conference there. But take a look at their stats here all around the board. And, of course, Jalen Johnson is the guy of that team, the main man, after trading away, of course, Trae Young, averaging 23 points, 9 rebounds. Oh, that's defensive rebounds, 9 defensive rebounds, 10 total rebounds, 8 assists, a steal, nearly a block. Really, really solid shooting splits as well. 51 from the field, 36% from 3. And of course, you have Dyson Daniels, one of the best all-around defenders in the NBA. Almost won, in my opinion, should have won Defensive Player of the Year last year, averaging 12 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, almost a block there too. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's having an absolute breakout year, averaging almost 21 points per game, 4 rebounds and 4 assists. Also shooting exceptionally well from the three-point line, averaging 38% there. They rank pretty high in three-point percentage. The Atlanta Hawks too. They're 10th in the NBA right now in three-point percentage, I believe, at the time of this recording. They also have guys like Onyeka Okongwu, who can also space the floor. And this is a really, really dangerous team on paper, folks. But I think what their main problem is, and I mentioned this in yesterday's video if you didn't see it, is I think it's their coaching, and I think it's the way that Quinn Snyder has kind of schemed this team around and moves them around offensively and defensively. They obviously have the players and the tools to be a great team, but I think that's where they're pretty lackluster is their coaching. And that's I'm not trying to diminish Quinn Snyder here, because he was a great coach over there in Utah, leading the Jazz to the number 1 seed at one point in the regular season, but he's just never been able to get it done in the playoffs. And I just think that it comes down to coaching tonight, and I think Jordan Ott is going to do that job. He's been doing it all year, and that's why he's one of the top candidates for Coach of the Year. But that's going to do it for today's videos, guys. Let me know what you think down below about the whole Brent Barry insider situation there, given his perspective on the Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant era. I'd like to get your thoughts and opinions down there in the comments down below, and give me your thoughts and opinions on this Atlanta Hawks game tonight and how you feel about it. And as always, guys, go Suns.